Hey everybody, John Chale here with Cruise Addicts, and we're so glad to have you here. We may be having some technical difficulties with our Facebook group comments. Obviously, we want you to make comments, and I put a link to our YouTube channel. So if you need to make a comment, obviously we want you to make comment to ask questions. You could use that as well. So we may have some technical difficulties, but we appreciate you being here. First, I see someone gave us a heart. Please give us a thumbs up. Please give us a follow. Give us a subscribe on the YouTube, Facebook follow. We appreciate that, and we obviously appreciate your time that you're joining us tonight. And this is a special night because we've got Michael Consoli with us. He's a Viking expert. He's a longtime travel agent, very successful. He's actually won Viking's global top producer for 7 years in a row. And we're going to get Michael in here. He just got back on not one, but two Viking cruises. And we're going to talk about that. And of course, we're going to try to answer your questions. So thank you so much for being here. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I want to say congratulations on winning 7 years in a row, I believe it is, global top producer for Viking Cruises.
Yes. Yeah. Very excited about that. And also, very grateful for my clients who have helped me achieve that status every year. So.
Yeah, I know that's not given. You've earned that, and with hard work and dedication, and of course, customer service to so many clients that you have, and we really appreciate it. And we're being associated with you here and being part of the group. And I do see some comments coming in here, so that's a good sign. Hopefully, we can get some people. It looks like a lot of them are YouTube. Oh, looks a lot of them are YouTube. So we'll have to see what's going on here. Let's see here. Let's try to clean this up a little bit here. Yeah, so we have Erica, but we'll get back to part of what we were talking about earlier, or before we started going live here. So you were actually on not one, but two cruises, and you got to cruise on the Viking Octantis. So both of us were able to cruise on that beautiful new ship. And I was really curious what you thought of it, because I just think it's wonderful. Great combination. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really incredible. The ship itself, the ship design, I think by itself was just outstanding. There's so many great things that they did on that ship to prepare it for going to Antarctica, and all of that stuff. All the toys and the SOBs, the submarines, all that stuff. I just think was really well done. If you get to tour the hangar and see all of that equipment, just outstanding design, really. So like specifically purpose built, and you can easily see that people would enjoy using that equipment in different parts of the world, and just so well thought out in its design and how those things are put into the water and loaded with people and that kind of thing. So it was, I thought, and we've been on a lot of cruises. Like, I stopped counting. I say this all the time, about 5 years ago at 150, and this ranks in the top 5 for sure. It was just an outstanding experience.
Yeah, I think it was do you agree with me that it was a great combination of the river product and the ocean product? It just seemed intimate like river, but then you had a lot of the amenities of the ocean, and then of course that expedition element thrown in there.
Yeah, 100%. The thing that people love about Viking is the consistency from ship to ship, the same fabrics, the same chairs, this type of thing. I mean, while the ship was very different and it had a lot of, it still had that same feel that Viking's known for, that whole Scandinavian design. It's just, so appealing, and, all the same venues or similar venues to what the ocean ships have with Mamson's and, the Explorer's Lounge and that type of thing. And then really well designed specific areas that are specific to that ship, like Finzi Terrace, that type of thing on the back of the ship, where the lounges are heated. So when people are sitting out there in the cold, they can still have warmth and be able to observe outside. Just really unbelievably smart design.
Yeah, and it's incredible because I agree with everything you said, because it was unique. It's still Viking, but it's obviously very unique and made for that product. But everything that you like was you love about Viking was still there. Now we've got a lot of people that are watching us right now. but we don't have very many questions because I think the Facebook commenting is obviously not working like we hoped, or we feared it might not. So we've got I put a link to YouTube. If you're really energetic and you want to switch over to YouTube and ask a comment, we appreciate it. Otherwise, you might have to just watch us and hear us talk about some things. So to fill some time here, but we sure appreciate all of you being here. We have almost 50 people watching live right this second here. We really appreciate that. So, but of course, I made a comment earlier. Facebook was having problems where the commenting's not working on these live streams. They were trying to fix it, but we didn't want to just cancel. We wanted to, you know, the show must go on, and we wanted to have a good time here and try to get together and answer some questions. So, Michael, I guess, you know, one of the things that comes to mind, I see people asking all the time. Lately, someone asked about, I guess they're changing itineraries and they're dropping ports and stuff like that. And someone was asking about in the groups. Have you seen much of that with your clients?
I mean, there's been some changes, you know, mainly to you know, make it easier for the guest to travel. It might be related to COVID regulations in that port or that type of thing. Specifically, recently, I think it's been a focus on Key West, which we've known for months that Key West was not going to allow large cruise ships in. So, you know, there's some discussion about that, but nothing I think that impacts the overall experience for the guest. As far as changes go in itinerary, we see a lot of ports, you know, reversing or changing order simply because of, you know, the port demand or the infrastructure can't handle the number of ships that are going to be there that particular day. So they swap them around, but that doesn't really affect the overall experience, just the order in which guests are seeing the itinerary. So.
How about airlines and air problems that we saw in the past? Is that still continuing, or is things quieted down? I heard the lines in Germany weren't as bad as they were, or Amsterdam, I think it was, that airport. So that it wasn't as bad. It didn't look as bad as it used to be. Have you heard?
Yeah. So, I mean, interesting that that, you know, you said that about Germany, because we were just coming through Frankfurt on our way from New York to the river cruise from Octantis. And I mean, the line was out the door to check in. And so it's still just a matter of timing, I think, and when you get there and making sure that you make it as easy as possible, doing the online check-in, having your documents ready, that type of thing. So, but I think that what people are not realizing is that if you're transiting through these countries, it's really not as much of a problem. So if you're, you know, like we were in Frankfurt, for instance, so people were departing from Frankfurt. So if you're departing from Frankfurt that day, that's what the problem was. But we didn't have any problem transiting through, you know, customs or immigration or anything like that. So I think if you're going through that airport, as we always say, you want to have enough time to get your connecting flight, but don't panic that you're going through a city that might have a delay for guests that are, you know, flying out of that city, because it doesn't necessarily translate that you're going to have trouble transiting that city. So, but yes, the air has continued to be somewhat of a challenge. The airlines are constantly changing schedules and flights, and you know, a lot of it outside the airline's control or our control. I would say I spend about 25% of my day fixing air and making sure that my clients get the best schedules and get what they had or similar to what they had before the airline made the change. And our goal is to just make sure they have the easiest experience with their air. So.
Yeah, and if you want to have Michael take care of your travel and work so much to make your air the best it can be, you can contact him at 1-800-913-7245. And contact Michael at planmycruise.com. And his website, of course, is planmycruise.com. And I know he'd appreciate your business. And it truly would be an award-winning business and customer service that he can offer you. So please contact him. And I know we've still got more people watching. Everyone stayed with us. You know, we really, really appreciate this. You know, we used to really work hard to try to get an audience. Now we have one and they can't talk to us, Michael.
I know. It's really frustrating. So
I feel bad. So how was your river cruise? I guess we'll just continue on there. And Could you tell a little bit? Could you tell us a little bit about it? I know it was special. I don't know how much you want to disclose, but of course, I know people are interested, and it's such an honor that you were I know you went on this particular sailing.
Yeah, it was a real honor to be included. It was the top producer cruise for Viking, so we were, really we had the pleasure of sailing in the Explorer Suite for the week on the trip, and I mean, it was a special itinerary designed specifically for that trip, and so we got to experience some, cities in different order than most people would experience, like on the Rhine or the Grand European. But it was an outstanding opportunity to be able to participate in that. And I mean, I just have to say, I love river cruising. The Octantis was an outstanding experience, but I love river cruising. I love the proximity of the ships to the cities and being able to explore those cities and all that stuff. It's a lot of fun. So, I mean, if anybody's watching and you haven't experienced the river, it's definitely something that I would encourage you to do. It's different than almost any other cruise experience that you will have. So
yeah, I can echo that. Me and my wife love it. We said we would do this as regular as we could afford, And we got good news though. We have some comments coming here. I don't know if you can see them here, but here's an opening question from Ken Elrich, I believe is how you say it. He said, "How have the floods in Crete affected the Viking cruises? We're on the Venus arriving in Crete around November 7th and 8th, and wondering if that's going to happen. Thanks, Ken."
I mean, I'll be honest, Ken, I've not heard anything about that affecting, any sailings at this point. So, I keep myself very aware of these types of situations. So unfortunately, I don't think I have any information to share with you about it, because I don't think it's affected any of my guests traveling. Currently, I'm not really aware that there are any sailings being affected by the floods in Crete. But it's a great question.
That's almost a no news is good news.
Right.
So we have another question from Lee Kearney from YouTube. What are your thoughts between Viking insurance or buy your own in the open market? Great question, Lee.
Yeah, great question, Lee. Listen, travel insurance is different. The value is different for each guest, right? So to be blatantly honest with you, they're both great products. We happen to offer a proprietary third-party insurance through Allianz that's specific to us. And so it has some really great benefits that Viking's policy does not offer, specifically with pre-existing condition coverage and, trip interruption, COVID coverage, that type of thing. But they're both great policies. The best way to find out what policy would work best for you is to work with a qualified, knowledgeable agent that can help you lead you through the process, because everybody's insurance needs are going to be different based on the situation that they have. So, if you're somebody that has elderly parents or children that, might be in this, trying to get pregnant, things like that, different policies are going to provide different coverages for those types of situations. And so we just like to work with our guests to make sure that we find the right policy that fits their needs. Sometimes that's based on price. Sometimes it's based on coverage limits. Sometimes it's based on, how long the policy can be written for, or what the highest limit is on the policy. So there are a lot of factors that factor into it. We help our clients make the right decision about those policies. And we just always want to make sure that we have an avenue to pursue to get our clients money back should they have a situation where they have to cancel unexpectedly or interrupt their trip unexpectedly.
And, that's a question for you. Obviously, a lot of the Viking customers, we're all a little bit older, and obviously that lends itself to things happening medically. But I think a lot of people probably don't think about buying insurance. Maybe more now with COVID, but how many times do you have to what percentage of your customers do you have to kind of talk into or motivate that not to earn anything, but just a good decision that, unfortunately, if something bad were to happen, they're going to get safely evacuated, get back to the States, because, for example, their medical insurance won't work there. So you've got a great medical insurance policy, but it's not going to work if you're overseas, right?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the majority of guests do not have coverage outside the US for health. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind, that a lot of people don't realize, oh, my health insurance doesn't cover me outside the United States. That's a conversation we seem to have a lot with our clients. And they'll say, oh no, we have coverage. And then I'll say, well, why don't you check that out? And then just give me a call back and we can discuss it further. And when they do look at it, they realize that they do not have coverage for medical care outside the US. And that's really important. And going back to the question that Lee had, I mean, even the destination that you go to visit could also have, requirements for insurance. And so that's really important too, that you are aware that a destination that you're visiting may have a requirement for insurance. It may have just a requirement to have medical coverage. It may have a requirement to have a certain amount of medical coverage in order to visit that part of the world. So it's very important that you're aware of that. So yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, let's see here. So Lee's got another question. Lee asks, what are your top 3 river cruise and top 3 ocean cruises that are must-dos? Well, that's kind of hard. You can be here. We're going to be here all day, Lee. Well, at least you feel good time filler, though, Lee. We appreciate you.
So I think the top 3 probably are going to be, for me personally, the Rhine getaway, the Danube, which would be either romantic Danube or Danube waltz, and then, of course, the Grand European, which provides an incredible value if you have the time to take to do the Grand European, which is 14 days. But those would be my top 3 choices, especially for somebody who's never been on a river cruise. I would probably recommend the Rhine or the Danube. Those are going to be the best examples of what river cruising has to offer, because the ships are going to dock right downtown and allow you to have the freedom to walk off and explore on your own. So yeah, those would be my first. And then I think for ocean, I have a personal favorite, which is the Mediterranean Odyssey. It's a great itinerary from Venice to Barcelona or Barcelona to Venice. Also, British Isles Explorer, which is a standout experience for me. It was something that we did with a group that I found I really enjoyed more than I thought I would. And then, even the new Viking Homelands itinerary, the altered itinerary that they've used for the Baltic cruises, that is a really, really great itinerary as well. So those would be my top 3, river and ocean. But I would have to say also the unique itinerary that they offer in Australia and New Zealand is also something that would rank up there as far as suggested sailings.
Yeah, on my particular list is I want to do Alaska. I really want to do Alaska. That's on my bucket list.
Hey, and that itinerary is unique too. Having it's a longer itinerary than most cruise lines offer. It has other additional ports that most cruise lines don't offer, like Valdez. It's a really unique itinerary for Viking and sells very well for them.
Yeah. Let's see here. So we got another question from Erica. It's a long one, Michael, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm going to kind of ask to follow up a little bit more, add a little more to it. And Erica says, we originally booked and paid in full on the Antiquities and Holy Land cruise for January of 2023 and rebooked for January 2024 and might cancel due to my husband's recent brain tumor removal. Any West Coast recommendations? Because she's worried, Michael, that she might not be able to fly overseas anytime soon because of his injuries.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm really sorry to hear about that. That's a really tough thing. So I probably would look at Alaska or maybe the new Hawaii and Tahiti sailing that they're offering. Or Panama Canal, even though it may leave from the East Coast, from Florida, something like that. But there's not a ton of offerings from the West Coast, so it is relatively limited. But those would be, off the top of my head, the best ones that I could think of.
Yeah, and obviously, Erica, you could contact Michael at the phone number that's below and also the email, and he can help you further and kind of sort that out if you're not already working with an agent. But we really appreciate you asking the question. Hopefully that helped you out. If anybody else is watching, we still have a lot of people watching. We appreciate it. Please have the comments come in. Make sure you check in. Let us know when your upcoming cruise is. We know that some of you have to have some books, so let us know about it. Let us see you checking in. And also, if you can think of a question that you haven't already thought of, please do now, and we really appreciate it.
And Erica, one other thing, I know it's not a West Coast departure, so I don't want you to think I don't know my geography, but I will tell you that the Great Lakes itineraries on Octantis and Polaris are really, they're short flights and really great experiences. So you may want to consider one of those, pretty unique. And I think you would probably enjoy that too. So,
yeah, I wonder if there's really train service or something. I'm thinking of a way to get around, but it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd probably have to drive I'm guessing it's the flight must affect things during the recovery phase, I imagine. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm trying to think here. So did you use the submarines on your expedition cruise at all?
No, they didn't allow the submersibles, but we did get to do the SOB, which is the special operations boat. So those were pretty cool. And a lot of people did the Zodiacs and the kayaks, and they really loved that. So yeah, just a really incredible ship. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I love how the submarines are, of course, they're yellow submarines, and they're named John and Paul, respectively.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a fun crew. I mean, and the amount of people that work, in the discovery, the expedition portion of the ship is just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, really it was. And the crew, as you said, was just outstanding. They did everything they could to make sure. We were traveling with a group, with one of my groups, and they did everything they could to ensure that my group had a wonderful trip. They did everything they could do to make sure everybody had a wonderful trip.
Yeah.
But when you travel with a group, there's always going to be some situations where somebody might not be happy about something. We did not experience that at all. Everybody was just thrilled with the experience overall. So, I think if you're looking to do Antarctica or the Great Lakes, or we were doing Canadian Discovery, which was Toronto to New York, I would highly recommend that one of the expedition ships for that.
Oh, so we've got a comment here. Kathy West says she loved the Douro River cruise with 2 days in Lisbon. And Kathy, that is on my bucket list too, because for a while I was telling on my family I was moving to Portugal. So, yeah. And of course now it's in the headlines. A lot of people are moving to Portugal.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the Viking offering in Portugal is that they do include the 2 nights in Lisbon. So some lines don't include that. But you can also add Madrid before. If you want to spend some time in Madrid, there's an extension. You'd fly into Madrid, spend some days in Madrid, and then fly from Madrid to Lisbon, and then a couple of days in Lisbon, and then go to the ship for a 7-day Douro cruise, which just is really scenic, beautiful part of the world, and so popular. I mean, I have people call and say, "Yeah, I want to do the Douro next April." Well, I mean, you have to book that itinerary. It's like Egypt. You have to book it a year plus in advance, just because, Viking has now 77 ships, and they can add ships wherever they need them. But unfortunately, on the Douro and on the rivers and, on Paris and the heart of Normandy, they're limited to what they can have. So those itineraries sell very fast. Same thing with Egypt, limited in the number of ships they can have there. So those itineraries sell quite fast.
Right, and we've also she's got a follow-up question. She says she's going on the Venice and Athens cruise in late March, and a favorite port other than Venice?
Probably Dubrovnik is one of my favorite ports. So I think that you will enjoy that itinerary. I think she must be talking about Empires of the Mediterranean. So great itinerary.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're any other questions that people might have? We're gonna wait around here a little bit more if you have any follow-up questions. Otherwise, we'll close this out. We don't want to keep people, waiting for. But we really appreciate everybody being here today and working through this issue where, unfortunately, the Facebook groups comments weren't working, which is the first time I told Michael, it's the first time we've ever had a problem like this. But I guess as things like this, as technology evolves and more and more people use it, I mean, it's amazing. Right now, we're broadcasting to 8 different destinations, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, multiple Facebook groups. So the technology's come a long, long way. And I guess it's just bound to break.
Yeah.
So, but
all those technologies don't speak to each other. So
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's evolving at a rapid rate. And one of the things we can actually do, Michael, one day, is we can actually we can actually bring users in potentially and have them on video asking questions, which is pretty interesting. That might be fun to try that one day.
Yeah.
And who would have thunk that we'd be able to do something like that? But here we are. So I know we have it here. Let's see. We've got Erica. She said, "Cool. Thank you so much, Michael. Short flight across the country is fine. Awesome. Glad to hear that. She's going to look into all the recommended cruises. Excited to cruise with Viking. Looking forward to eventually doing our original 20-day itinerary."
Yeah. Well, I hope that works for you and that you find something that will work for your situation. And, we appreciate you sharing that with us, and we're all thinking about you and hope that you get to find a trip that will work for you guys soon, because everybody loves to have something to look forward to like that. So I'm sure your husband would love to have something on the books to look forward to.
Yeah. And that's great you say that, Michael. What percentage do you think of the planning and the waiting and the expectation for a cruise is part of the whole experience? I mean, I think it's a pretty big chunk of it.
I mean, I think it is for sure. I get, you get a little jaded, but when we travel as much as we do, when we travel with groups and things like that, that I actually wait until like the week before I actually look at my stuff, because, it's just, we're always helping everybody with theirs. And we love to live vicariously through them and my clients that have these great trips. But, I mean, look, I tell people every day, it has to be a healthy balance of information that you're taking in, right? Like if you're just obsessing over these details, it's gonna turn the experience into something that's more stressful than it's supposed to be, right? So you want to have a healthy balance. I think the information that's on the Facebook page that we have, I think is really helpful. And, the majority of it is, helpful and informative for people. But sometimes, it can be overkill. There can be too much information and it makes you stressed about the experience, and that's where we have to remind our guests that, don't overthink it, because you don't want to spoil the whole experience, worried about something that may or may not happen, just because it happened on somebody else's trip. Yes, we absolutely believe in being proactive and helping our clients be proactive and anticipating things that happen and things like that. But, you just don't want to overthink it. You want to have a healthy balance of, what's going to be new to you and also the information that's going to help you plan, a great experience.
Yes. Well said. And I've said this to someone recently. There was obviously my website going way back. There was a new ship. It was the biggest one at the time. And we read all the reviews because that was the thing to do at the time. And they were saying how this was wrong and this was bad. And me and my friends, we all get on this ship and we waited. Of course, it was the best thing at the time. And we looked at each other and said, were these people even on the same ship?
Yeah.
Because it was, and unfortunately, that's how it is. So I even do it today with Google reviews and with the car wash or the oil change place or whatever. You have to take some of these reviews and comments with a grain of salt and see where there's some commonality. If a lot of different people from different areas are saying it or at different times, then maybe there's some truth to it. But just then again, you know what? I'm pretty easygoing, and me and my wife say sometimes we're like, it's really not that important.
It's really like restaurants or hotels or anything like that we see reviews on online, right? So the information is helpful, right? If somebody says, "Oh, this room doesn't have a refrigerator," or they don't have a pool, something like that, right? But if somebody's expressing an opinion about their experience, it can be, a wide variety of opinion, because you don't know whether that person has, is, Four Seasons, and Ritz-Carlton experience, if that's their experience that they're comparing it to, or if they're comparing it to, Holiday Inn or Comfort Inn. You don't know what the background is and how their experience applies to the experience that they had. So that's the thing that I try to tell people. You have to take it with a grain of salt, because you don't really know the person, what their experience is to that point. So some people may be disappointed that it's not, a luxury experience with, butler service. And some people may be disappointed that they don't have belly flop contests. That's the variety of the differences between how people review experiences on cruise ships. And so you just have to keep that in mind, that you're not really aware of the frame of mind of the guest who's writing that experience.
That was well said, because what might be important to you might not be important to me, and vice versa.
Well, I know one thing that's important to both of us, John. Food. Right? I mean, I've never complained about a masseuse, because I've never been to one on a ship.
So I did one time. I had a couples massage, and it's kind of strenuous.
Yeah. No, that would be stressful. Well, hopefully the person that was the other couple was your wife. So
yes.
That makes it less stressful when you know the other person. Yeah.
So here's a comment. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but Brent Sharp. Hi, Brent. Thank you so much for making a comment and sticking with us here today. He said, "How is the weather in the Mediterranean at the end of the first week of December doing the Rome Barcelona cruise?" And just off the top of my head, Brent, I go online and I look, because sometimes you can look like a commonality, and I'll go like, I'm doing a cruise this week, and what's the weather in Galveston, Texas this week? I have no idea. So I looked it up, and then I looked farther. I go to the ports and I look at the 10-day thing, and I kind of look like coming up to it. But then you can kind of say, what's the weather in December in Barcelona and Rome, and it'll show you like almost like the Farmer's Almanac in that place, and you kind of see basically what it is,
Yeah.
On top of my head.
They're giving away all our secrets.
Yeah, that's but that's what I do.
I'm kidding. No, it can be cold. I mean, even though it's the Mediterranean, it can be cold. So we recommend you dress in layers, especially at night. If you're going to go out on deck at night, it's going to be cold. I have been on the Itinerary from Rome to Barcelona, iconic Western Mediterranean, for New Year's, and it was a mix of weather, to be honest with you. So you definitely would want to dress and make sure you have layers that you can remove or put on based on the weather. But it's going to be cooler for sure.
Your answer was much better than mine.
Yeah, well, I do it for a living, so.
And that's why he's Viking's global top producer for 7 years in a row, has hundreds and hundreds of satisfied customers, and you can contact him at 1-800-913, right down there. You can see it here. Yeah, you can see it right down there. Michael at planmycruise.com. Give him a call, email him, visit his website. He'd love to have your business. And we want to thank him for taking the time tonight to answer your questions. We're going to try to do this again when we don't have technical difficulties. I think this hopefully is probably just one of those strange days where there's a little glitch in the matrix here where we couldn't get comment from the Facebook group. But we want to thank so many people sticking out with us and asking questions and watching. We really, really appreciate y'all being here. And again, Michael, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
We really are honored to work with you and be associated with you. And I hope you have a good night.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. Thank you again.
Bye.
And we're going to put this here. We got this.